What's up, you guys, and welcome back on another episode of the Smart Talk, where we talk about real struggles, real stories, and entrepreneurs that came from the ground up. Today, I got my boy AV Bodega in the
That's
building.
right. That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
That's right, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys for having me, man. I've never been on a podcast before, so I'm excited about this. The line between radio and podcast, you know what I'm saying? You have a lot of radio personalities that are mad at podcast and podcasters that, you know, don't care about radio. So it's an interesting thing to be on a podcast for sure.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
you say it's similar though? Podcasting and radio.
It's definitely similar. The difference is that podcast is a long conversation about whatever topic you're having, whereas radio is mainly used locally to promote, businesses or events. That's the real thing about radio. And so a lot of people ask me, because I worked for UPS, and before that I worked for radio. So I got back into radio, and they're like, aren't you afraid? Because when you look at the way that people communicate, newspapers, that generation, they're slowly dying off. So it's like, is newspapers always going to be relevant? Whereas like my newspaper, maybe your guys' newspaper now is on our phone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I think with radio will always be something that is needed locally because we have that connection. When you look at the stats of how many people still listen to radio, it's very, very high. But podcast is a very interesting thing. It's a lot of entertainment has become easier throughout the years.
Yeah.
I mean, you used to have to know somebody or have a lot of money to get into a studio. Now you could spend the money you would spend in the studio for 6 months and go over to a place and buy all of your own equipment and do it out of your closet.
Yeah.
And so podcasting is very interesting.
I know we jumped the gun a little bit, but I want
Okay,
sorry. Everyone to tell
Sorry.
tell the audience a little bit about yourself and
Cool.
you growing up, what kind of person you were.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, Antonio Hernandez. The V has nothing to do with my real name. So, growing up, I grew up in the war zone. And about 5th grade, I got kicked out of elementary school because I got in a fight with someone. They called my mom a bitch. And, that's who raised me. I never met my dad. So I was raised by my grandparents in the war zone, and my mom ended up meeting someone. We moved up to the Heights. And so I started going to school at Kennedy, Tomasita, and then I graduated from Manzano. So I went to like, touches of college, not really anything like super, super big. It would just so happen that trying to figure out who I was going to be one day, we were driving, and me and my cousin, we had started this DJ business. And this is before, like, how DJ setups now are like, the turntables, everything is digital, right? MP3, whatever. This is back before that started, when vinyl was still being utilized. And so we had started our own little DJ thing, and all we had were 2 Discmen. So we had 2 Discmen and we had a power amp. And so we would push play and we would turn the volume down on one and push play on the other and turn the volume up, and you know what I mean? So that was our mixer.
Yeah.
Because all that stuff wasn't in the market yet.
So were you known as DJ AV?
No,
Or-
no, I've never
Okay.
claimed to be a DJ. I know how to mix, but I've never claimed to be a DJ, because to me that's something sacred, man. These guys, they put time into it,
Yeah.
downloading their music and learning their craft and scratching and blending. I can DJ, but I don't call myself a DJ, because to
see.
me that means something different. So anyways, we were driving down the street, and I heard, at the time it was Wild 106, was broadcasting from the Ice House. You guys remember the Ice House?
I'm
Yeah,
not
you
familiar,
guys are-
so I
you guys
never-
are young
I
bucks.
know the ice box in Atlanta.
The ice box.
So the
You wanna buy
Ice
some
House,
jewelry.
it was an 18 or older strip club. You know what I'm saying? So it was a spot to go if you weren't 21 yet. And, it wasn't all nude, but it was nude enough, And so I heard them on the radio say, hey, come on down. We'll hook you up with the CD. Mingo, Silver, the 3 Hispanics Causing Panic, Kid Vicious. Big shout out to them. They were there. I pulled up, me and my cousin, and I was like, I got to see this, because they were saying that Mingo was up on stage. He was shaving a girl, and Silver was arm wrestling for CDs. And I was like, no way in hell this is happening, you know? So
Yeah.
we get down, we pay to go in, we're walking in the club, we're sitting there, it's wild, you know. Mingo is up on stage and he is shaving a girl, and Silver is sitting there, and Silver used to be a Golden Gloves. So he's sitting there and he's arm wrestling. So I arm wrestle with him and he beats me. And I just lean over on the table. I say, hey man, can I ask you a question? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, are you really getting paid right now to arm wrestle? And he's really getting paid to do that? And he was like, yeah. And I said, I think I want to be in radio. So
crazy.
they said, you know, we're looking for interns. And I kind of blew it off. 2 weeks later, they're back on the radio. They're looking for interns because they're going to do these things called sticker stops. It's where they put a sticker on the backside of your car and then they give you a prize for letting them do that. And they said, hey, we're looking for interns. Come by the radio station. And this is crazy because radio at that time, you know, it was on San Mateo and Central. You had Wild 106, you had KISS, and KISS was in the bigger building. And beef in radio was real at that time. So they said, we're looking for people. So I pulled up, me and my cousin, same cousin, we pulled up, go up to the top, go to get interviewed. And it's funny because, like, you know, Step Brothers, we want to interview as a team. We actually said, hey, can we interview together? And they were like, yeah, come on in. So when I walk in, it was actually a girl I went to school with. And her name is Candy Cruz now. She does more like news, like traffic news. I had actually went to parenting class with her in high school. And she was like, hey, I know this guy. You know what I'm saying? He's good people. Like, you should put him down to the program director. And he was like, all right, we'll show up at 7 o'clock and let's go do the sticker stop. And from there, I started doing, driving the van, doing the street team to, you know, doing just crazy stuff. I would make people shit in diapers for Snoop Dogg tickets or, you know what I mean? Just crazy, because radio was different back in the day. And it was, when I said that it was real beef, like, we would literally be on the air on the night show and a listener would call and be like, hey, KISS is talking shit about y'all. And then you'd be like, oh, well, tell him we said, you know, fuck you. And they'd be like, all right, cool. They hang up the phone, call KISS. Hey, he said, fuck you. And call back. Hey, he said, meet him downstairs. Like, cool, we'll be right there. So literally both, you know, people would walk downstairs, walk to the middle of the parking lot, and they'd throw down. They'd come back, have black eyes, be bleeding, and still talking shit to each other. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, radio is just, it's a beautiful thing, and I love it. I have a passion for it. And I'm interested to see where everything's going because I think podcast, you know, I think it's a great thing too. It allows people to tell their story. You know what I mean? I think that's cool.
But don't you think, like, the radio industry is dying a little bit because the younger generations, they're more on just like Apple CarPlay, you know, not really listening to like streaming stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you have to stay ahead of it, right? You know, like cigarettes were a cool thing. Now they're totally out. So, you know, you have to start doing vape stuff because that generation is vaping. The older generation was, it's an evolution of life all the time. It's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So is the next thing that radio dies? Like I said, I don't think radio will fully die because what you can't get from a podcast and what you can't get from streaming is people can't tell you that there was a huge fire in Albuquerque with all those crates that burned down just yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or something happened and they need people to get socks to locker 505. Like, you know, you could pay for that, but you're going to be paying a lot on a stream just to be able to impact your community. So I don't see radio fully going away.
How, and a lot of people don't know about you is that you actually manage artists as well, not even just working for the radio station. How was that type of lifestyle and that type of line of work go for you?
Well, I mean, that goes back, right? In 2005, I actually was working in radio and I got to interview some people. One of the people I interviewed was Ludacris, and Ludacris said he started off in radio, but he used radio to get on as an artist. And I had been writing already myself. I love music, you know, all means of it, from DJing. I have my own DJ company. I've done weddings since 1998, you know what I mean? Graduations, all that. So anyways, I ended up getting on a label out here called Rip 'em Up Productions. It was one of the only local labels that actually got airplay and was getting real play on like Wild and stuff like that with their artists. And from there, I started doing my own music. So from about 2000, I'd say 2005 till about 2012, 13, I was with some other guys, and I managed a couple of other people, R&B singer in a group, and we went by The Set, and we were on every single show. You know what I mean? So at that time, I was already becoming a manager. I was already managing us, working with some of the people inside of The Set to put together T-shirts, to put together CDs. I have a friend by the name of Danny G. We started our own duplication business because it was like at that time CDs were gold, and I feel like they should still be gold because artists only get like a third of a penny for streams. But we started our own duplication business, and I worked with all the hip hop artists to duplicate albums, and he worked with the rock side. So even now with like Johnny Bad Luck, I print up CDs for him because when we're at shows, instead of you going and getting his album and him getting, I don't know, $2, $3, you buy that album from him for $10, he's going to get, $8.50 of that because it costs money to print it. Mm-hmm. So, making that transition from, being a little bit older and stepping away from being able to be up on stage and have fun with that to working with artists, it's easier because I have a lot of history with it. So right now I'm currently working with Johnny Bad Luck. I'm working with Draymond, working with Mark the Dark. And it's just beautiful for me because what I want to see is I want to see the industry recognize the talent out of Albuquerque. Mm-hmm. And so how do I do that? I could be a bitter old man and be like, I never got my shot. Or I could say, I'm put in this position to be working at a radio station right now to help open the door for the industry to be able to see that there is talent here in New Mexico. Because there's a lot. Like from when I started making music to now, it's completely changed. You had a lot of influences from like, Little Rob and stuff like that. And that's mainly what came out of New Mexico. Now you hear music from here and you're blown away because it's just like, why is this not being played on the radio? And why is stuff like Sexy Red being played on the radio? There's a lot of behind the scene politics, but I definitely, I love what I do. I love music, and I'm glad to be a part of it in any way, shape, or form.
So would you say pushing music out of New Mexico is a difficult thing to do?
It's a difficult thing out of any state, mm-hmm. But the difficult thing about here in New Mexico is you got a lot of crabs in the bucket. And I constantly I feel like I'm a politician because I have the same campaign trail. Mm-hmm. Every year there's a new flock of MCs that come in, and the MCs that are still here and been grinding, you see those MCs. And so I tell them all the same thing, I say, if we get together and we create sort of a commission and we launch a different artist every month for the whole year, so 12 MCs, mm-hmm. But we all focus on that one MC. Say like in January, Johnny Bad Luck has a single, we all push. There's 12 MCs, there's 12 fan bases all pushing that. Then in February, it moves over to Draymond. We're all pushing Draymond. Then, so on and so forth as you move down.
Yeah.
If you have those like-minded individuals that are about it, like, of course you have those weekend warriors, those people that are here just to have, do drugs and party and get chicks. But you have those individuals that are really about their craft and really putting money into being an artist. And you have them pushing all together at the same time on top of other things. Like, it costs money, man. A lot of people don't know that. You're going to be an artist. You're going to put money into it and you're going to lose a lot of money. The difficult thing is that you have to have that window in order to get in. For example, Exhibit. Mm-hmm. He was here. He was an artist here. He wasn't born here, but he was here, and he would go over to KUNM and he would spit freestyles. And then he decided he was going to go to LA because he wanted to make it, and he did. Mm-hmm. Right place, right time. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of those people that feel like with everything going on from the podcast, to radio right now, we're not just in Albuquerque, we're also in Vegas. We have the opportunity that we've never had before to be able to push the artists, but the artists have to take themselves serious. Mm-hmm. You can't be doing something and then decide that, I'm going to take a break. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep growing that fan base. You have to make that condition, that connection with people that love music. And when you see a hot chick, if she's a fan, you can't take her home and have sex with her because you're just you're taking a cookie out of the jar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of factors that need to happen for us to be able to be seen on a different light. But I feel like a lot of that is happening right now with different people doing podcasts, with radio happening, with artists getting out and doing shows. A lot of that is happening, and I'm excited about what moment we're at right now in Albuquerque.
So you basically have to be a mentor toward these artists,
Right.
Keep them straight in the straight line, and
They're not always going to listen, we don't always listen, but once they start hearing what you're saying and it does start applying to their life because they're living it. I've had artists come back to me and be like, wow, man, you were right. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's your advice now? And I'm always happy to give people advice. I'm always happy to give them a direction. I can only do so much, but I'm happy to give them the knowledge that I have to push forward, because when we talked a little bit earlier about crabs in a bucket, what a lot of artists don't understand and people don't understand is that once the door opens up here in Albuquerque and the industry comes, it's not about getting signed. Yeah. Right? It's about being able to get out on these tours with these big artists and they see the talent. And then now all of a sudden you're touring and, you're getting money and bringing that visibility back. Once that door opens, the industry is going to look for the next Tupac, for the next Biggie, for the next LL Cool J. You know what I'm saying? There's a spot to be filled by people who aren't here no more, or the type of music that they made, Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, when working for the radio station, how do you decide what artist or what song gets constantly played on the radio?
That's that's a system that's put in place years ago. You know what I'm saying? And there's an order the way that things happen. It's just like, people talk about the Illuminati and stuff like that. There's a system in place, not so much like Illuminati, but that is there where you have an individual that is a consultant, all right? And the consultant works for these labels. And these labels say, hey, we want this song to be played. And they go to the radio station. The consultant calls and says, hey, I want these things to be played. How can we do that? And the radio station says, well, I'd like to bring this person in concert. And he's on your label. But I don't want to pay what promoters are paying. I don't want to pay $20,000. I want to pay $10,000. Okay, cool. You play my song, I'll give you the artist for $10,000. So it's a lot of bartering with stuff that is just air, right? Negotiating and bartering, and I got this, you want this, let's make this happen. So, unfortunately, the way that radio works is it is a brainwashing situation to where, do I think that we should be playing some of these artists? Definitely not. But,
the demand is there.
Bills have to be paid, right?
Bills have to be paid, and there's a reason that this artist is being put forward, whether it's pushing an agenda or however you want to look at it, because obviously music has gone in a different realm. When you talk about conscious hip hop, nobody really wants to hear about, like Tupac's Brenda's Got a Baby, but they want to hear about Hit 'Em Up. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot that happens behind the scenes, but when it comes down to it, it is about repetition, right? So we play a song enough, you hear it one time, you're like, that song's garbage. But guess what? You're driving in your car, and now you're talking about WAP out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's TikTok videos about it. So it's just a big system that's in place that, it's been here since the beginning of time.
I mean, it sounds like it's an investment that you want it to work, so you're going to keep pushing at it, regardless if it's bad or not.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And this whole thing with, the ditties and all this stuff that's going on, it just shows you the ugly monster that's behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. You think you're partying to somebody's music, he's getting money and he's doing things that he's told to do on the other end, You know what I mean? It's a lot of behind the scenes politics.
Free my boy Diddy. No, it's
Right.
Fuck.
I don't know about
Yeah, I
that.
don't know about that.
You might
You're
come
on your
over here
own
with some
that
baby
one.
oil, dog. You
He's
might,
guilty.
You might start getting rubbed down before you know it. Jeez.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
what would you say is one of the hardest things to, as far as managing artists, like the hardest struggles you have to deal with on a day in day out basis?
You know, I always, when I start working with the artists, I always tell them the same thing. Number one, I'm not going to push you harder than you. And unfortunately, life happens, right? So you could have an artist that's super motivated and someone in his family passes away, or he gets a girlfriend, or he breaks up with his girlfriend, or he gets fired from his job. Now your super motivated artist is in shambles because we all, no matter how much we want to pretend like men are untouchable, you know, the one thing we should be talking about is how we also have problems in our life and how sometimes we got to pick each other up. You know what I'm saying? And so that happens with artists to where they'll be motivated, or something will happen where someone will hear their song and they won't give them the feedback they wanted, and it kills that creativity for them. So keeping your artist motivated is probably one of the hardest things in being a manager, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What do you do to keep them motivated? Just, keep them, just say inspirational words, or...
Well, first of all, you never tell them what's happening until it's happening. You know what I'm saying? Because I've had plenty of things that are going to happen.
And then it just falls
And
out.
they fall out, whether it's, they decide to put another artist on the show or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Sponsor falls through. You can't get them the merch that you were going to get them or whatever it is. You always want to just be talking about what is happening and not what could be happening. That's a motivational thing for people. You know what I mean? Oh, we got this going. You know what I mean? But whether you have a show and the artist isn't doing what they need to do, you have to stay on them. So, it's just a crazy thing to be a manager. You have to be built for radio. You have to be built to be a manager. If you can't do that, then you're wasting both of your time. You know?
So let's just say one of your artists got signed to like a big contract and stuff like that. Are you going to go on tour with them and let's say they move out of state, or are you going to stay here and stick with the radio? How does that work?
It really matters, man. I'd have to talk to my wife and my family because I have 2 granddaughters right now, and that's the world to me. Like, being a grandfather is like a second chance at being able to raise a kid, the mistakes you made as a parent. You know what I'm saying? So am I willing to give away my time that I have with my grandchildren for someone else's dream? Probably not. And the reason that I'm saying this is because I don't have the knowledge that a manager has that's already been a manager. Am I willing to grow with the artist and become that? I would be, but I have to think about the time that I have on this earth, right? For me, I've always told the artist, you own everything. I've never taken a payment from any artist that I've worked with. I've never taken my percentage. I've never asked them if I could own the rights to their music or copyrights. I've never done any of that because I want to make sure that business is good. If Johnny or any of the other guys get signed tomorrow, I've told them, yeah, I'd be happy for a finder's fee to be able to put that towards my house. But I think this is as far as I can take you. I don't know the industry like that. You know what I'm saying? And so, I've had those talks with artists that I work with. And of course, they want me to stay on because they know that my interest is that, everything is good for them, that their best interest is what I fight for every single day. So, you know what I'm saying? But what's right for the artist? Am I going to go out there and make mistakes? And could the mistake I make for that artist be the reason that he doesn't go to that next level? It's very possible. And I don't want to work this hard to get somebody there and not be able to take them to that plateau that they need to be at, or that height that they need to be at.
So would you consider yourself sort of a middleman from, like, say you're an Albuquerque artist or a New Mexico artist, they have to go, not necessarily have to go through you, but if they go through you, they have a better chance in order to go elsewhere? That's
a good question. I mean, it sounds like it because I said I'd take a finder's fee, but at the same time, like I said, I'm not taking payment from anybody. And so at any time, if that artist gets put on and they have to move on, they have to move on. I'm not going to take that personal. At the end of the day, what I'm worried about is people seeing the talent from Albuquerque. I love hip hop so much. I love music so much that if somebody does get on and now Albuquerque is not seen as the place where, you can get free meth every single day of the week, you know what I'm saying? and that person comes back and they help out other people, and the artist have the mentality of making the city grow in a good way, then I'm happy with that.
Do you think this change has been happening, where they're seeing more New Mexico artists as legit artists instead of just, like you said, a place to get free meth?
Right.
'Cause it's,
I do think so. I think that a lot of the artists that are coming out of here and getting out, that's the very important thing. You can't stay here and say that you're wanting to be an artist. You know what I'm saying? Like, a very good recipe is, if you want to start touring, then you go and you lock down three different tour dates this year. And then next year you do those 3 again, and then you add another 3, and you keep growing that. It's chess, it's not checkers. You know what I'm saying? But I think that the artists that are coming out of Albuquerque and getting out there and doing their thing are a good representation for the talent. I don't really get the chance to sit down with every single artist, because there's a lot of new artists, you know what I'm saying? But the artists that I have, been able to talk to that are making big moves, Mona Lisa Gang, Joe Speaks, and those guys, they're doing everything they need to do to have the puzzle pieces in the right. They're going to school and they're learning how to do their own film and learning how to edit their own music, and stuff like that is inspiring, and it should be inspiring for other artists, because they're being able to do their own thing. They're not waiting. That's the hard part is, you're waiting for a graphic designer, you're waiting for your video to come out, you're waiting for this. And sometimes that holds you back as an artist, and that can kill your motivation. So, you know what I'm saying? But, for the question, I think that there is a lot of great artists out of Albuquerque. And if I could manage, be a part of helping them move forward and manage all of them, I definitely would love to do that. But, I've got to focus on the key components for me. And those are the individual artists that I have around me. You know what I'm saying, that I'm working towards. But I'm not one of those gatekeepers to where if I get a call for a show, where I'm going to say, you shouldn't work with these people. I'm going to offer them all their options. And if they decide to go with the option that I'm a part of, then I'm going to help that promotion go. I have handed over a lot of shows to other artists that fit it, whether they're the type of style of music, or they're actually right now this month pushing themselves so hard. I can't be the person that holds them back. I'm going to be like, hey, you should go with this guy because he's motivated right now and he's pushing himself really hard. He has a team behind him and he's pushing tickets. That's why you should pick that artist. You know what I'm saying?
So what would be the benefits? For example, you do have some artists that are under your management. Let's say when you throw a show, those artists most of the times get the first dibs, right? In that situation, on where if you bring in a big artist and you have openers, or if it's their own show. What if other artists outside of your management want to go in there? Do you also give them that space, or how does that work?
Yeah. So the way that I do shows, the radio station is different. It's owned by Kurt and Mindy, and they make their decisions. You know what I'm saying? But I have been put in that situation to where, so let's just start from the beginning. First of all, when I do a show with my artist, I want to make sure that my artist is getting paid. And last year, Johnny Badluck was the highest paid artist in Albuquerque, hands down. You know what I mean? He was making money on shows, and that was coming through sponsorships and other things. But when I'm looking at being a part of a show and I'm going to put an artist on, like right now I have, by the time this comes out, it'll already happen, but Back to the Beach, which is like a throwback to the beach water park. And there was a dance for teens back in the day. And they used to have artists that would perform, and they'd have dances and dancers and all that. So me and my friend Danny G, we decided to do something called Back to the Beach. And so in this case, last year, Johnny was a part of that. And it was over 1,000 people, and he was up on stage, and he got to perform for those people. This year, Johnny's not on stage. It's something that we're doing at the radio station called Thursday Throwdown 7. It's where we took 32 artists. We took their songs. We let the public pick what song was best, and we're doing the bracket and moving it forward. So whoever wins that, which we'll have the winner on the 22nd, Oak and Ivy is going to be the final 4. We'll have that winner, and that winner will be put on the show to start them off. And we're doing stuff like, giving them a free photo shoot and doing stuff like that. But, it just matters on the situation. Am I always going to want to put my artist in a situation where he's on a show and getting exposed to more people? Yes, but you also got to remember, a show isn't an answer, you know what I'm saying, for an artist. because they go to G Easy doesn't mean that they're going to enjoy seeing you open up.
Yeah.
They're there for G Easy. So sometimes the people are going to be frustrated that you're taking up time. And what people don't realize is you're at a show, you're going to sit there for 30 minutes till G Easy wants to come out, or 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you might as well have entertainment. So sometimes, the artists, they got to fit.
Yeah.
But if an artist fits that I'm not managing and isn't work, then we're going to work them in. The important part for artists, for me, looking at what's going to benefit that show, is can that artist sell tickets?
Yeah.
Can that artist bring people? You know what I'm saying? Because if we bring an artist now, the way that shows happen in Albuquerque, it's crazy because people want 20 people on a show, and even that's not selling out. They just recently had a show and it got close to selling out, but it didn't. They had like 14 huge names on the show. So, you know what I mean? That's the important part, is pushing those tickets, getting those people there, because each individual that's on the show has a fan base. So you're trying to expose each artist to that fan base. So you want to fit the artist that fits that. You don't want some random R&B thing when they're there to see 3-6 Mafia. People are going to be like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't have Draymond open for Kane Brown, right?
I mean, you never know. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. In reality, we don't just get in the car and listen to that one genre of music.
Yeah.
It's not happening. I mean, maybe if you're in the country and all you like is country, I don't know. But me, I'll get in and I'll listen to the old school. I'll listen to the newer music. I'll listen to hip hop. I'll listen to reggae. So, that crossover could happen, but it's got to make sense. And you can see that now with artists through their social media. You can actually see who's tapped into them and see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier now to be an artist, I feel.
Why do you think like big record companies or labels, they overlook New Mexico and our talent here? Is it because we have we don't have a really big small market, or it's just they don't believe in our artists here? What do you think it is?
If we get a chance to be a part of the industry, and when you get there and you start working with people, because we have a lot of producers that are winning Grammys and stuff like that, but the way that they act inside the studio, or if you're on a show with an artist and if you act out of pocket, what you don't realize is that the industry talks to everybody. I don't know if that's the reason, but I'm thinking that if we have people and they get the chance to be in good positions, and I don't know, man, I really don't know why they're not looking at Albuquerque. I know that one reason that they're not bringing shows is because a lot of the shows that have been planned to come here are not selling out. And so the industry talks about that type of stuff. This is
It's a thrifty market here.
And it's very last minute. Hey, let's go to that show. Okay, cool. We'll get the tickets when we get there.
Yeah.
Whereas in other places, you have more population and people are like, I got to buy that ticket before it's gone. Here in Albuquerque, they sit on it. And then what happens? You're at home chilling with your girl. You're about to eat some tacos. And you're like, I don't feel like going to that show no more. And then you don't go. So not going and supporting, the industry artists, it hurts us in this market big time, because we've had a lot of shows that don't sell out. We've brought artists that have never been here, or maybe been here a little bit, and the show doesn't sell out. Benny the Butcher is huge everywhere. Anywhere that we announced that show is happening is sold out. Here in Albuquerque, it did not sell out, and so that's like crazy.
What do you think needs to change? Like if you were probably more higher power or had more money to deploy, how would you change the music industry here where you can get big venues to sell out?
Well, first of all, I would start growing the artist. And I think that, to grow the artist, I think that there is a recipe that you can utilize. Tekashi 6ix9ine actually had a great formula, and most people looked at it and were like, that's messed up. But what he did is he went and did songs with the most popular person in like Russia or something, and then went over there and did a show with them and got a fan base from them and moved. For me, when I look at the industry and what we have here in New Mexico, if you were to take, let's say like a Baby Bash who's selling out everywhere he goes, and you were to find an investor that pays for Baby Bash, and you were to take your artist and you were to put him as the opener for Baby Bash and go and book him in 5 cities, now that crowd that's there, that's, you know, for the sellout show for Baby Bash or G-Eazy or whoever it is, you would start exposing them to other artists. And that's exactly what G-Eazy does. He put his artist on his label, and Bash puts his artist on his label before they go up. Any artist does that. You know, Master Killa just came through. He put his artists that are underneath him before he came out to perform. And so you're doing that because you're exposing them, you know, the crowd to those. And some people are going to like it and they're going to Shazam it. And, you know, but you got to have everything in place too when we're talking about Shazam. You can't have an artist that's on tour and his stuff isn't online and easy to reach and easy to find. You can't have an artist that doesn't have a website. You can't have an artist that doesn't have merch. It's everything. It's not the music. The music isn't going to be the only thing that drives the artist forward. So, you know, here in Albuquerque, where do I think we're lacking? I think that the artists don't take enough time to promote that one song. For example, 50 Cent. Name a song from 50 Cent.
Many Men.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's just, I don't know, this might not be fair because you know Johnny, but name a song from Johnny Bad Luck.
Ruins.
Okay.
Southwest Fiesta.
So that's not fair. Okay, so what I'm saying though is like he did take time, he did put money into those videos, and he promoted it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the norm for artists here. You have to be able to focus on that one song. You can't drop a song. You have to put money behind it. But it's just it's selling the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like with Johnny, you know, Stay Bad. And then you've got his music and you've got his videos and he puts money into it and he goes and flies out to New York. That's the main reason I wanted to work with Johnny, to be honest with you. There was no artist that was doing it at that level and believing in himself and putting money into himself. But you ask him, I know he was on here and he said there was hard times. There's struggles. There's times where, you know, I'm looking for money, because he's putting everything he has into what he believes, and he believes that he is an artist that's going to represent New Mexico, and he's going to be one of those individuals that breaks into the scene, and people are going to be, you know, believing in him, and he's going to be on tour in the next 5 years. Johnny believes that, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I want to do. I want to work with people that believe that and put money behind themselves, because that's where it needs to be. Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of artists here are impatient with the process as far as, like, you know, promoting themselves, making merch? They just want to drop a couple of songs and just hopefully they get popping off that song.
Right.
That's the issue that's happening here, huh?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that you got to stay educating yourself. You know what I'm saying? As an artist, we were talking earlier about, you know, Mona Lisa Gang going back to school and learning how to mix their own music. And, you know, Tut the God just went and he learned how to be a videographer, and all that's doing is helping the team. But for artists, you know what I mean? You got to be looking up what's working and being successful over here for this person. You know, why is Snow the Product such a big thing right now? What is she doing that's different from everybody else? What did she do differently? You know what I'm saying? What did Russ do differently to blow up and get on? You know, going from SoundCloud to, like, you know, one of the biggest artists of his area that he was doing, you know?
Yeah.
You really got to be looking at that and growing yourself as an artist and finding those answers. How are you going to evolve? And it's not about following trends. It's about being able to get you as an artist out there to the public. How can I do that best?
You don't think the industry makes it seem like a lot of artists are overnight success, though? You don't think that's like a common...
It's funny because I do. So the Bodega, just selfless plug, hustle1013.com. You can stream us anywhere in the world in case you want to do that. I do the Bodega, and Mindy's on there with me, and we were just talking about that today. Nobody really talks about the struggle as much and what it took to get there. You just see them with the ice grills and the chain, and you know what I'm saying? Like, we want to see this story. We want to see the struggle, and I think that needs to be seen more. But yeah, it's you glorify, the industry glorifies a lot of the shine and the drinks and the partying, and there's a whole nother part to hip hop that is not lost. It just doesn't have as loud of a speaker, you know, because you still have those people talking about their struggle in hip hop. So,
what's like your next goals or ambitions you have for yourself? Do you plan on staying in the radio station long term? Do you plan on Like, what goals do you have in mind as far as like scaling your personal brand?
Right. So I'm definitely taking those leaps and strides to continue to grow. You know, me as a personality. You know, getting back in, I was out of radio for 10 years. A lot of things have changed. You know, right now we're in Albuquerque. We're syndicated in Las Vegas. I definitely want to work on, you know, being able to get out there and have an app and, you know, everything when it comes to clothing, just all of it. You know what I mean? We do Local Love Friday where we get out and talk about, you know, food places to visit here in Albuquerque. I'm an entertainer. I like to entertain. I love to do music. So, you know, I would love to be able to be, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the guy by the name of Bobby Box, but Bobby Box has been in this market forever, and he's done radio and he still does it now in his age, and he's an older man and he loves radio. It's just when you get bit by the music bug, it's hard to explain to anybody that feeling and what it drives you to do, but you feel like you can't walk away. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm not on radio, I'm still going to be doing music entertainment in some way, you know, whether it's doing weddings or whatever it is, managing at a fuller scale or podcast. I don't know, but you know, I plan on continuing to grow me as a personality and continuing to grow the hustle. You know, I got in when it was 1 year old. We're at 3 now, and my plan is to help grow the hustle to the point where we are that outlet for artists. Like the industry is looking at us to see what the next big artist out of Albuquerque is, but us also doing our thing on the side to where we're growing these artists to be able to just walk into the industry ready to make money and making money on their own already. We don't need the industry. We just need you for this piece of what you can do for us as a movement, as an industry here in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, telling a little bit your fans about your little life story and what you got for the future. Hopefully, people, whenever they see you on stage or they see one of your artists, they know all the hard work and dedication you put behind them to get them to that position to be. You know, I know you personally, so I got much love for you, man. I wish you always the best. I wish 101.3 The Hustle the best.
Nice.
Before I end today's podcast, guys, I want to give a huge shout out to our 2 main sponsors. We got Hookah Kings, a top-rated hookah lounge in New Mexico, and Merino Media, quality content for your business and image. And I'll see you guys next time on The Smart Talk.